All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome to the Explainer, everyone. Look, if you live anywhere near North Texas, you know the sound of construction is basically the regional soundtrack right now. But today, we're pulling back the curtain on one city that is aggressively rewriting the script. We are taking an unfiltered, deep dive into the master plans, the zoning laws, and the actual, literal city council receipts that are quietly engineering Heath, Texas into a premier, highly exclusive outdoor lifestyle community.
Absolutely. And we're completely skipping the dry academic summaries today. We are going straight to the data, the dollars, and honestly, the insider secrets hidden in these city records. If you've ever wanted to know exactly how a city financially and legally builds a fortress around its property values, you are definitely in the right place.
So let's hit the core tension right out of the gate. How exactly do you stop suburban sprawl? I mean, every single day, thousands of people are moving to the DFW Metroplex. Developers want density. They want to put as many houses on a plot of land as physically possible. But Heath's 2025 comprehensive plan explicitly fights this. They've adopted this incredibly strict philosophy they actually call rural by design.
It's an incredible contrast, right? Surrounding cities are just booming with these high-density subdivisions, and Heath is out here playing chess. They are actively using their zoning code to prevent that exact type of growth. And it's not just a polite suggestion from the city, it is literally baked into their legal framework.
To really understand the legal firewall Heath uses to protect this low-density mandate, you have to look at how they define an acre. Because it's not just that they require a minimum of a 1-acre lot. The absolutely crucial point is how they calculate that acre.
Exactly. The city's master plan states that a residential density can be no more than one dwelling unit per a minimum of 1 acre of developable land. And here's the real insider secret. They legally exclude regulatory floodplains, lakes, streams, and rights-of-way from that 1-acre calculation. So a developer can't just buy a chunk of cheap floodplain, count it toward their acreage minimum, and jam a bunch of houses onto the remaining dry land. It is a strict, mathematical barrier against overdevelopment.
And the real-world application of that rule comes down to a highly specific number, 18. That is the exact number of lots approved for the new Savannah Acres addition.
Right, and let's give everyone the context here, because this is huge. This is a massive 22.36-acre tract of land situated perfectly at the northeast quadrant of Lawrence Drive and FM 549. In almost any other North Texas city, a developer would try to squeeze 50, maybe 60 homes into a space that size. But because of Heath's strict rural-by-design zoning, it's intentionally capped at just 18 single-family lots. They even face challenges regarding sanitary sewer connections and drainage ponds, but the city held firm on the low density. This is exactly how you artificially constrain supply to protect exclusivity.
All right, moving into lifestyle upgrades and retail, or essentially how you engineer exclusivity. When you enforce a massive, low-density residential mandate, you completely change the economics of your city. You don't get massive big-box stores. You get highly curated boutiques. The city records show a deliberate push for distinct, quaint businesses in their town center that generate sales tax without destroying that hometown atmosphere. And that brings us to a really fascinating strategic maneuver by the Heath Economic Development Corporation, or HEDC. They recently purchased properties at 217 and 305 Lawrence Drive. Now, the initial thought might be to just rent them out, but a financial analysis showed it would be incredibly cost-prohibitive to bring these old residential structures up to commercial, ADA-compliant codes. Right, so what do? They authorized a $48,900 demolition contract to a local vendor to just level the house at 217 Lawrence and take out the swimming pool and outbuildings at 305. Why? Because the liability of being a commercial landlord just didn't make sense. By clearing the slate, they preserved 24 acres of open space right in the Towne Center overlay district, making way for the highly anticipated Towne Center master plan activation.
And while we're talking about the Economic Development Corporation, let's look at the actual financial receipts. This is how you aggressively incentivize the exact type of lifestyle upgrades you want. First, they approved a $25,000 budget to turn part of that Lawrence Drive property into an ADA-accessible temporary dog park, complete with agility elements made from existing materials. Pretty cool use of space. But the really big fish here is the 1880 kitchen project in the reserve. To get this high-end restaurant to break ground, the city sold them a 1.639-acre lot for $500,000, waived permit fees, and threw in up to $65,000 just to install a natural gas line. And wait, on top of that, they provided a $250,000 zero-interest construction loan, plus another $150,000 zero-interest loan the day the doors actually open. That is a $400,000 aggregate zero-interest loan to ensure premium dining comes to Heath.
Okay, let's pivot underground. The hidden infrastructure reality, and how they're funding this massive vision.
So maintaining this sprawling, rural aesthetic requires massive underground investments. I mean, when you have large one-acre estates, laying the pipe and pumping the water becomes exponentially more expensive per capita. We are talking a jaw-dropping $26 million just for the first 3 pieces of this water bridge plan. That includes $14 million for a 1.5 million-gallon elevated storage tank on Governor's Boulevard, another $6.5 million for a ground storage tank, and $5.5 million for just the first of 6 planned potable water wells, and this one's located right in Towne Center Park.
Yeah, and that price tag completely justifies why the city is aggressively hunting for a $15 million grant from the Texas Water Development Board, and why they're preparing to issue certificates of obligation, which are essentially city-issued bonds, to pay for it all. They absolutely have to dramatically increase their water capacity to sustain this growth model. In fact, things were so tight, they even had to approve an emergency $92,000 temporary pump rental just to get water into the Towne Center Park pond before the permanent electrical facilities are finished later this year.
And until those multi-million-dollar tanks and wells come online, the city actually had to get pretty creative to manage peak demand. They engineered a brilliant little hack to the watering schedule.
Oh, this is so smart. The heavy demand zones watering on Tuesdays and Fridays were putting a massive strain on the distribution system. So, the Public Works Department literally shifted the entire city from a 6-day to a 7-day watering schedule by moving one of the heavy Friday watering zones to Saturday and the Wednesday/Saturday zones to Sunday. They spread the load out over the weekend. It's a purely logistical hack to relieve pressure on the infrastructure before the big money projects are finally finished.
Let's bring this down to the neighborhood level now, the community impact and where it hits home. Because at the end of the day, all of these master plans, infrastructure grants, and zoning codes have to translate to daily life for residents. Let's start with a roadway reality check. Hubbard Drive is getting a massive $5.4 million concrete reconstruction, complete with curb and gutter. Meanwhile, Terry Lane is undergoing a $2 million rehabilitation funded by an interlocal agreement with Rockwall County. And here is a fantastic insider secret on how the city actually decides which of your neighborhood streets get fixed first. It's not about who complains the loudest on Facebook. The city strictly uses Pavement Condition Index, or PCI ratings. It's a purely data-driven grading system. Using this objective data, they've already completed 35 targeted street maintenance projects this year alone, keeping the driving experience pretty pristine across the city. But it's not all just concrete and water pipes, right? Let's look at the incredible community push for Marcia's Happy Haven. This is a proposed, fully inclusive, all-abilities playground facility slated for a beautiful half-acre dedication within Terry Park. It's such a heartwarming project, originally championed by Heath residents, but it does come with a ticking clock. The estimated cost is over $1.17 million. Now, the City Council officially passed a resolution to dedicate the land, but they attached a strict 6-month deadline. If private funds sufficient to construct a significant portion of the park aren't secured within 6 months, the land dedication is removed. It's a really brilliant way to leverage city land to spur immediate private philanthropic action.
Wrapping things up with Heath's living blueprint and why you need to keep your eyes open.
So, to close out our macro to micro journey here, the absolutely crucial takeaway is that zoning laws, comprehensive plans, and city council minutes are living blueprints. They constantly dictate your exclusivity, your tax rates, and your property values. Every single time the city votes to limit a subdivision to 18 lots, or approves a $400,000 restaurant incentive, or drops $14 million on a water tower, they are actively locking in that rural by design lifestyle.
Exactly. Heath is quite literally engineering its own reality. Which leaves us with a final, provocative question. What will your neighborhood look like in 2035? If Heath sticks to the documents we unpacked today, it'll remain an exclusive, spacious, beautifully amenitized enclave. But growth pressure in North Texas is relentless. Keeping the rural by design promise is going to require constant vigilance from the community. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep your eyes open, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.